The Biden administration is facing mounting pressure to enact tougher gun measures after yesterday's shooting in Boulder and last week's massacre in Atlanta, Georgia. As we've been reporting all morning long, at least 10 people were shot and killed at a grocery store yesterday, and this comes after 8 people, the majority of whom were of Asian descent, were gunned down last week. Both massacres reignited the debate surrounding gun reform in this country, but it is unclear if the White House and Congress have enough support to pass new legislation. So for more on this, let's bring in CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, President Biden did visit with some local leaders and activists in Atlanta in the wake of the Atlanta shooting. What's been the reaction from the White House to the shooting in Boulder? And could we see any significant action from the administration in response? I note that yesterday, in the wake of this horrific attack in Boulder, Nancy, the filibuster debate was again trending on social media.
Right, and I can explain why the filibuster debate and the gun safety debate go hand in hand. Here at the White House, the president expressed regret at the horrific situation in Boulder. He's going to be traveling to Columbus, Ohio today. I'm sure we'll hear more from him about that. Whether we'll hear more specifically about gun safety legislation remains to be seen. It didn't really come up from the White House after the Atlanta shootings last week, but it is something that we know is a big part of this president's agenda. Even when he was running for office, he said that on day one, he was going to be submitting legislation to expand background checks and to increase liability for gun manufacturers. Well, we're way past day one now, and we still haven't seen that legislation. The House of Representatives passed background check legislation on its own, but it is, doing what it normally does. It's sitting there because it cannot get past a Senate where you need a 60-vote majority for most legislation. And that's why the debate over the filibuster has resurfaced, because there are many Democrats who argue that if you want to pass this priority and many other priorities for Democrats and the White House, you've got to do away with the filibuster so you can pass these bills with a simple 51-vote majority. And so that's probably one of the reasons we aren't seeing a really aggressive push from the White House right now for gun safety legislation. And the other reality is that they've just got a very crowded agenda right now. Yes, gun safety legislation is a priority, but so is voting rights legislation and immigration reform and a big infrastructure package to the tune of potentially $3 trillion. So all of those issues are kind of fighting for primacy right now on the White House agenda.
So, Nancy, I guess talk about timing. The Senate Judiciary Committee actually already had a hearing on gun reform scheduled for today. I'm sure that both of these mass shootings are going to come up. Any idea what's on the agenda, who's going to be speaking, what the purpose is?
Sure. They'll be hearing from activists. They'll be hearing from the family members of victims of previous mass shootings. And the sad thing is, Anne-Marie, as you know so well, because we've had this discussion so many times before, this is an issue that tends to take center stage after mass shootings. And then, because Congress isn't able to accomplish anything, it recedes again, and everyone sort of throws up their hands and goes back to square one. I will say that the Democratic Party, at least, is more unified on this issue than it has been in the past. It used to be that you'd have a lot of moderate Democrats who were less comfortable about gun safety legislation. That has kind of fallen away. You've got near unanimity among Democrats when it comes to doing something about gun safety, whether it is closing the gun show loophole, expanding background checks, things that are broadly popular with the American population, reducing magazine size, and on and on. But Republicans remain, at least Republicans in Congress, deeply opposed to any kind of legislation that they think opens the door for more restrictions on gun rights. And so, for as long as I have been covering Washington politics, the baseline dynamics here have never changed, which is that Republicans are opposed to gun safety legislation and Democrats are for it. And when you're looking at a 60-vote threshold in the Senate, that is a recipe for gridlock.
Nancy, I know that you mentioned that the president is set to travel and that we expect that he will make some comments on what has happened in Boulder. But do we know, have we heard from the White House if the president at some point is planning on visiting Boulder? Of course, we all remember the moments from past mass shootings, President Obama at Mother Emanuel or in Sandy Hook, expressing condolences directly to the families of those affected by these shootings. Presumably, just because the Biden administration has taken some of its cues from the Obama administration, could we potentially see something like that in the next few days?
That's certainly possible. It's the second major mass shooting of his presidency. He obviously went to Atlanta last week, so it's not something that would be out of character. The sad reality is that there are so many mass shootings that take place in this country that it wouldn't really be feasible for a president to visit every city or region that experiences one. But yes, this mass shooting coming so early in his presidency certainly would merit a visit in the eyes of many White House officials. We just haven't gotten word of any plans to travel there yet. Obviously, he's already got a lot of things on his agenda this week. He is doing his first press conference here at the White House on Thursday, and it can sometimes take a couple of days to get plans together for a trip like that anyway. But if the White House announced that he were going to take a trip like that, I would not be surprised at all.
All right, Nancy Cordes, thank you.
You're welcome.